Morning, Michael.
Hey, good
I was
morning.
just telling Chris that this is the first session that is kind of open to the public. I don't know if anyone's going to join us, but we did post it on our Twitter page, and we're going to start putting it on LinkedIn as well and kind of make it a more open discussion. That's why we changed the name from the Founders Call to kind of Quick Lube Industry, future of the industry and what's going on. So it's more of a dialogue about that, because obviously that's what people are interested in anyway. We'll still go through the normal kind of background story and then get to Q&A, which I think just from the feedback we've gotten from the YouTube channel, that the Q&A is really the most beneficial part for everybody involved. So and anybody that wants to learn about my background, we've recorded it enough times to you can send someone to the YouTube page. So but anyway, I'll still kick off with an abbreviated version. Thanks for joining the call, guys. We've been doing this for 18 months now of doing these calls every single week. And we've been selling the brand very well because the model resonates with the consumer, and I think we're solving a consumer problem, and we'll talk about that during Q&A, I'm sure. But I'm just going to do a brief background on myself, and then I'll have Michael kind of curate the questions, and we'll go from there. I started off in finance. I worked at TD Bank in retail, moved to Ameritrade and brokerage, and then Merrill Lynch and T. Rowe Price and asset management. And I've always been entrepreneurial, so I thought that if I got a side business, I would scratch that itch and I would stop jumping from firm to firm to firm. And turns out that wasn't actually the problem. The problem was I was just never meant to be in an office environment, and I quit T. Rowe Price to do the Quick Lube full time after about 6 months of owning the business. When I was looking for a side business while at T. Rowe Price, I was looking for what I consider a non-skilled manager-centric business, meaning that if the manager is called out or if you lose the manager, there's still continuity of the business. And so for me, that was kind of the key. The example I used on previous calls is, if you have a pizzeria and your head pizza maker is sick or quits on you, then, either you have to make the pizzas or you close down, because you can't just half-ass a pizza. Whereas in our business, on the manager's days off, there's still continuity. If not, there are roles and responsibilities that the manager has for sure, but at least in the short term, there's continuity of the store without having to close down. And the skill jump between full-time employees and the manager was not so huge. And so for me, that presented an opportunity to create scale and run a business without having to actually be there. And so we opened our first store in Harrisburg, our second one in Dillsburg, and then the third one was in Mount Prospect, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. And that really kind of tested the model for us, because being 800 miles away, we had to learn very quickly to use third-party resources, third-party applications, and a lot of SOPs to keep the business going. And so very early on, woven into the DNA of this business was absentee ownership, and that translated well as we scaled up to 15 plus locations. We'll be at 20 plus corporate locations by the end of the year, and we've been able to take that model and create a oil change in a box business, and then we've been able to sell it quite well because we've covered all the bases on how to run the business without having to have a lot of background in automotive and such. So that's really it. There's a whole lot of detail that is in between those sentences as well, and I could talk about my business for days and days and days, and it's like a third child to me. But I think that Q&A has easily become the most important part of these weekly calls, and so we can jump right into that, and I'll let Michael curate the questions, and I've got until 11, so we have a full, that was a 6-minute background. That might be the shortest one we've ever done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you are right, Costa. The recordings help a lot. So I'll just move left to right on my screen, and if you wouldn't mind just holding your questions to one each time, that way we can make sure that everyone can get a chance to ask a question, and then we'll we'll do a round robin and go back again. Anthony, it looks like you're up next. Would you mind just introducing yourself and letting us know which market you're from?
Hi, good morning. So myself and one of my friends, Ed, he's on this call as well, are interested. We saw your information via the web, and we want to learn more and potentially open up Costa Oil here in Northern California.
Great, thank you. Do you have a question for Costa?
Not at this moment. No, I'm just learning and absorbing and all that good stuff.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. And hopefully you've made contact with the office. And if you want someone to contact you, just forward your name. We do have a section in our franchise portal on the website where you can put your name in and phone number, and we can have someone contact you. Great. I see iPhone. I don't know who that is. Coming up next, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself if you have a question for Costa.
Hi, this is Jason in Louisiana. No questions at this time. I did watch the Discovery Day via YouTube from last week. A lot of good information on there, so it did answer a lot of questions at this time.
Oh, good. Thank you for joining us, Jason. Let's see, and I do see your name now. There is also another iPhone next to just before Matthew Sexton. Do you have a question for Costa? Okay. Matthew, I see you are, oh, there we are. Sorry, go ahead. We can't hear you right now. Yeah. The gentleman in the car, we can't hear you. It looks like you may have your phone on mute.
Sorry, Michael, we'll go back.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Matthew, I don't know if you go by Matt. If you have a question, please go ahead.
Yeah, no questions right now. I'm still kind of gathering all the information, going through everything. I am looking to get into the market in Northwest Indiana, so not far from Chicago, and then maybe eventually Indianapolis market as well. That's where I'm originally from, and I currently own some real estate there. So I'm trying to get, I like the model, so I'm trying to learn as much information right now as I can.
Great. I believe you're working with Chris Longmore, correct?
I am, yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, Chris, maybe you and I have a question for Costa on the model. Costa, I don't know if you want to just run through, you starting out. I think the story about looking for a business and then you landing up in Harrisburg when you were working at T. Rowe Price is very interesting. Maybe you could just go over the first business you purchased, because I know you changed it around really quickly, and I think that's always an interesting story. If you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about that, when you searched for that business, found it, and made the offer, and then how you changed it around so quickly.
Yeah, so the Harrisburg store was the first store, and I was just spending a lot of time at my desk at T. Rowe on Biz Buy Sell, looking for businesses that the owners were open to seller financing, because I wasn't trying to outlay a ton of cash to get into it. So that kind of limited the scope of the search, and simultaneously trying to figure out, okay, what's a business that I can run regardless? I can get there in a pinch. I didn't want it to be too far. Harrisburg was about an hour and a half from Baltimore. I didn't want to be too far where if something was an emergency, I couldn't get there. But at the same time, like, I wasn't going to be there on a daily basis. And so the owners of the Harrisburg store, they were done with the business, and the revenues had gone flat and actually declined at a time where the rest of the industry was seeing growth. And so I figured there was an opportunity there. And also, the industry itself had taken such a hit from a credibility standpoint and a reputational standpoint, because the leader in the space just kind of took for granted their market cap and their position in the space. At one point, Jiffy Lube was 3,000 plus locations, and the next closest was Valvoline with under 500. And so there was a huge disparity in the space. That gap has since closed dramatically. And I think that a lot of it has to do with some of the other competitors, us included, going to the oil change only model and being really honed in on being fast oil changes, whereas right now Jiffy Lube is more concerned with their multi-care, and there's a lot of factors for that as well that create the environment for Jiffy Lube to want to only care about top line revenue, which is not so much what we care about. But in any case, I spent a lot of time at my desk reading Yelp reviews, because at the time Yelp was super relevant, and I just kind of reverse engineered what people were saying about the leaders in our space and how to make things better, and then I implemented my own ideas against that. We're a pretty forward-thinking organization. We're able to be a lot more flexible with modern day marketing. So I was doing Facebook dark posts way before anyone else in our space was, which is now just called meta ads. It's changed names quite a few times now. And so we're always at the forefront of trying new things, such as, Snapchat geofilters, and, we haven't dabbled on TikTok yet, but I'm sure that we will. And you just kind of have to go where the attention goes. And that's one thing that will help us always is being, more in tune with the modern day marketing and advertising side of things, and having the flexibility to do that. Our business is built upon a low operating overhead model. So we've stripped down the essentials of the business to we've stripped down the framework of the business to the essentials, and I've put together a flow chart that Michael and Chris can share with you guys if you'd like, on how to actually perform the service that doesn't compromise quality control, but allows the same service to be done with a fraction of the staff. And that's a big concern these days, is staff, and probably will be for the foreseeable future. And so if we can create a model that has the same potential unit economics as anyone else in the space, but with a fraction of the overhead, then we consider that to be a good thing.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Well, I know that Harrisburg has done some amazing things and performed extremely well. So congrats on that. Is there anyone else on the call who would like to ask another or a question?
This is Ed out in California. I'm the one that was in the truck. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm in Sacramento, California. I'm here with Anthony. That's also I just spoke a little while ago. One question I have is, moving forward into a market, I know that Costa as a corporate is trying to expand. Would they be expanding into the same markets that we're trying to expand into?
We will have a balance. If you look at our space, there's really only been two models. It's either been 100% corporate or 100% franchise. A lot of people don't know this, but up until last year, 100% of Jiffy Lube's locations were franchise locations. When Shell bought Pennzoil, they de facto bought Jiffy Lube, and they made the decision to not corporately own any locations. Take 5 and Valvoline have a decent blend, but still it's more, you either focus on corporate or you focus on franchising. We will take opportunities as they come, and we present them to franchisees first, because we have been getting a lot of media attention. We have been getting a lot of notoriety. We're working on a deal actually simultaneously to this call. I'm in correspondence with a gentleman in San Antonio about acquiring his shops for the purposes of transferring them to a franchisee we have in the area. And so we're doing the same thing in Kansas City. We will give the franchisee first crack at a development, and obviously we have to honor our own protections as well. California is an interesting one. It's the complete opposite side of the country. Obviously, the big news out of California last week was the phasing out of new sales of internal combustion engines by 2035. We'll see what kind of, we'll see what that actually hashes out to, and what kind of punishment or what kind of barriers they'll have to like being able to go over the border to buy a new car and bring it back into California, if they'll withhold registration or what they're going to do with that. But I don't think, I try to stay in the markets that we have footholds. I'll just talk about this a little bit because this is an important point. One location is fine if you have good staff that you trust right off the bat. When you get to 3 stores, that's really the sweet spot, because you can have a territory manager and you have that person whose sole job is to make sure that there's the stores are being run the way you want them to be run. And it's really difficult when you only have 1 store, if your manager is not someone that you can trust right off the bat and hand over that authority. And so for us, we have only really opened up new stores in markets that we have an existing presence, so that I can utilize my existing infrastructure, because my role has changed from being an operator to being a franchisor. And so, my day has gone from, observing pumps and customer flow and things of that nature to now supporting our franchisees. And it's two very different roles. And it's, when you make the decision to franchise, support has to be at the top of your mind. And so that's how my role has changed. And I know we kind of trailed off on your question a little bit, but hopefully that answers it.
No, that was a good answer, and also trailed off to where I would like to have went anyway. So that's great.
Yep. Costa, I think that's a very interesting topic. We all saw that 2 or 3 days ago, and there are some, major macro issues that the industry, I think, will deal with, specifically, with California. You probably could get an administration change, and things could change pretty quickly. There are also still.
I don't think California's getting an administration change anytime soon, but maybe.
Yeah. But I think the piece about the pragmatic view on how you convert 30 million cars or 60 million cars over time. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the current situation. We've got this wave of consumers that are moving from multi-care into more niche type of operators. So we're saving people time. I think COVID has extenuated that, but also the age of vehicles. And so I think even if we have something like that happen, it's going to take a long time, to filter out combustion engine cars. So maybe it'd be helpful if you could just add a few tidbits on that area.
Yeah. So what Michael's talking about is some of the more common talking points around why we're going to succeed as a business. And I think our industry is going to have to evolve, and in the direction it's currently going, I think is not going to help. Meaning that I think at the end of the day, the consumer wants a no-frills oil change. That's our macro view as an organization. We've said that from day one. I've said that since 2013, 14, when we started this thing, is that at the end of the day, the consumer wants a no-frills oil change. And I think that the model that we've created is going to be what is sustainable once the electric vehicles do penetrate the market in a more meaningful way. Now, tied into that conversation, is also some of the hedging factors of the quick lube industry, such as the rate of new consumers entering the do-it-for-me market is outpacing the sales of internal combustion engines. So what does that mean? In our industry, we typically categorize customers into do it myself and do it for me. And what we've seen is just generationally is that the older generations, if you take a look just from a behavioral standpoint, were more involved with the maintenance of their vehicles. So your grandfather might have done his own oil change, and then, you know, as it's moved down generationally, you're less and less likely to do some of these things because the friction of these services has just been removed through capitalism. And so if you look at any startup, or if you look at the behaviors that were, you know, accelerated by the by COVID, you know, you look at fast food, for example, you know, when Ray Kroc started making it McDonald's across the country, and it was a drive up, you walk up to the window and you walk away with food a couple minutes later, that was revolutionary. And then the drive-through was invented, and you would drive up and then you would say your order, and then the menu board was invented and you would say a number. And then, you know, you got to the point where the friction just kept getting removed. And then with the pandemic, you have mobile orders come in and you just show up, they throw the order through your window and you leave. And so, you know, I believe that any service that can reduce friction is going to succeed. And I think that's what we're doing. And to go the complete opposite direction of that macro trend, I think flies in the face of what the future holds for services in this country. So adding more services is not something we want to do. We just want to streamline the service. When Michael talks about the average age of the car, there's one really alarming statistic, and then there's one pretty cool statistic. And the cool statistic is the cars on the road are the oldest they've ever been. There was a point in time where some cars were really crappy. You know, they were manufactured really poorly. Like a Nissan Sentra in 1996 was not a car I would let my child in. And then, but today you look at a Kia Optima or a Hyundai Genesis, and these are really high quality cars. I mean, you can get a 2022 Ford, 2020 Ford Focus brand new a couple years ago. I haven't been in the market for a new car in a while, but you could get it for, you know, 20 grand, and it's a high quality car. And so, you know, I'm sure that I have seen the inflation numbers have changed MSRPs to almost 1,000% markup in some cases, and that's kind of scary. But because the cars on the road are older than they've ever been, that means they've had lifetime value. You know, an LTV of a quick lube customer becomes enormous if they're keeping their car 14 years. And so the scary statistic that Michael referenced is the average loan on a vehicle has exceeded 80 months now. And a few short years ago, you know, 5-year loan was a really long loan for a car. And now people are stretching it out 7, 8, 9 years. And I'm sure that a 10-year car loan is around the corner. And that's scary, but it also bodes well for our industry, because if you're underwater on a car loan and you have to make the payments because there's no equity in the vehicle, as we all know, these are very accelerated depreciating assets. That means that the customer will have to carry that loan to term and make the payments, and that vehicle will need its maintenance. And so that does bode well for our business, but not for the economy at large, I would say.
Wow.
I
Thank
agree
you.
with that too, Costa, because I was in the market for shopping for a new car. And last time I shopped for a new car, they gave me the options of 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years, and I think even 6. This time they started at 63 months and then went to 72 and 84. I couldn't believe it as the options. They didn't even mention 48 months or 36.
Yeah, yeah. We are credit card debt is the highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
We are leveraged in a major way as consumers to keep the standard of living we're accustomed to.
Wow. Thank you. That was very, very interesting, your feedback. I know it looks like we've got 2 or 3 minutes, maybe chance for one more question. Does anyone else have a question for Costa? Okay. Costa, thanks for being with us and sharing your knowledge of the industry. I must say I'm amazed every time I talk to you about oil changes. The depth of your knowledge is quite something. So congrats to you.
Thanks, Michael.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll I guess for those of you that are on the call that may not have made contact with us, if you do want to investigate things further, please make contact with the office, and Chris and I will be in touch with you. I did hear about Sacramento. I think that's an amazing market. The growth there is just going through the roof, and I drive through that area pretty often. And we do actually have a franchisee that's looking at part of that area. So it could be, a great opportunity to build the brand up pretty quickly in that area. Anyway, thank you. Hopefully we'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
Yep.
We did have someone join the room late, so I just want to give an opportunity for a question real quick. I've got a little bit of time.
Oh, yes, I see. It's Greenspoon, Mortar. Do you have a question?
Adam, there you go.
Okay. I think they
All right,
left.
good.
No, guys, I'm just listening in. Hey, Costa, how are you? It's
Hey,
Adam
how you
Moore.
doing? We're actually wrapping up. We didn't get a lot of questions today. So this will be posted to YouTube shortly.
Very cool.
Do you have any questions for Costa, Adam?
Nope. I'm just a franchise attorney interested in learning more about the Costa's business in the industry. So I'll just check out YouTube, and certainly we'll reach out if anything pops up after taking a look.
Okay, great, Adam. We have contact numbers and information in the franchise portal of our website. So just go in there, and then we can make contact with you if you'd like to talk further.
I appreciate that.
Okay,
Cool.
all right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone. Thanks, Costa.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.